Picture this: a lifetime spent giving your time, your energy, your love. You have cared for family, supported friends, dedicated yourself to work, and even extended kindness to strangers. But now, as you step into the later years of your life, a quiet realization emerges. Where has all that energy gone? And more importantly, who is giving back to you? For many older adults, the answer can be unsettling, not because people are unkind, but because life moves forward. The younger generations are caught up in their own pursuits, their own struggles, their own worlds. So do you continue seeking validation, holding on to relationships that no longer nourish you, hoping for recognition that may never come? Or is it time to turn inward, to finally offer yourself the care and attention you have always given to others? This stage of life is not about chasing approval. It is about self-preservation, self-care, and the quiet power of wisdom. Let's explore why embracing this shift can lead to deeper peace, fulfillment, and a freedom you may have never truly known. Part 1: The Truth About Giving and Why It Rarely Comes Back. Throughout life, we are taught that giving is noble. Parents dedicate their lives to their children, employees devote themselves to their careers, and friends support each other through hardships. Giving is often framed as an investment in goodwill, the idea that if we give enough, kindness and gratitude will be returned to us in equal measure. Yet as old age approaches, many realize a harsh truth: most people will not reciprocate your kindness in the way you expect. Many elderly individuals express a deep sense of disappointment. They wonder, why do my children not visit as often? Why do my friends not check in? Why does no one seem to appreciate all I have done? But the truth is, people are caught up in their own lives, just as you once were when you were younger. This realization can be painful, yet it also provides an opportunity to reassess the nature of giving and how to cultivate a sense of fulfillment from within rather than expecting it from others. Take the example of Mr. Lee, a devoted father who worked tirelessly to provide for his children. He ensured they had the best education, sacrificed his personal dreams, and always put them first. Now in his 70s, he finds himself sitting alone in a quiet house, his phone rarely ringing. His children love him, but they are busy raising their own families, managing careers, and dealing with their own stresses. Mr. Lee's story is not unique. It is a reality for many. The lesson: do not give with the expectation that it will come back to you. Give because it brings you joy, but also learn when to stop depleting yourself. From a psychological perspective, giving is deeply ingrained in human nature. Acts of generosity act the brain's reward system, releasing dopamine and oxytocin, which create feelings of happiness and connection. However, the expectation of reciprocity can turn a joyful act into a source of bitterness. Studies in behavioral psychology suggest that people have a reciprocity bias, a tendency to return favors, but only when the timing and effort required are convenient. This means that while people appreciate kindness, they may not always prioritize returning it. Life moves forward, priorities shift, and what once seemed essential becomes a distant memory. Another psychological phenomenon at play is the hedonic treadmill. Just as people quickly adapt to material wealth, they also adapt to acts of kindness. What was once seen as an extraordinary sacrifice may eventually be taken for granted. When giving becomes an expectation rather than an exception, gratitude often fades. Different cultures and philosophies have long debated the nature of giving and its relationship with happiness. Buddhism teaches that true giving should be done with detachment. The Dana-Paramita, perfection of generosity, encourages acts of giving without attachment to outcomes. When one gives with expectations, suffering arises from disappointment. Stoicism emphasizes controlling what is within our power and releasing attachment to external validation. A Stoic would argue that the disappointment of unreciprocated kindness comes from misplaced expectations. Christianity encourages selfless giving, but it also warns against casting pearls before swine, a metaphor for wisely choosing where to invest one's generosity. Modern psychology supports the idea of self-compassion, balancing kindness to others with kindness to oneself. Without setting healthy boundaries, endless giving can lead to burnout and resentment. Giving is admirable, but it should not come at the expense of your own well-being. There are different types of giving. Healthy giving, acts of kindness that bring you joy and do not lead to resentment. Obligatory giving, acts driven by guilt or societal expectations rather than genuine desire. Self-destructive giving, acts that deplete your physical, emotional, or financial resources to the point of harm. Understanding these categories can help in reassessing why you give and how to set limits. Mr. Lee's situation is a cautionary tale. Endless sacrifice without self-care leads to loneliness and disappointment. If giving is to be a source of joy rather than pain, it must be done wisely. Here are some principles to consider. 1. Give without expectation. The key to happiness in generosity is giving because it aligns with your values, not because you expect something in return. This shift in mindset reduces disappointment and fosters inner peace. 2. Set boundaries. Generosity should not mean neglecting your own needs. Know when to say no and recognize when your giving is being taken for granted. 3. Diversify your emotional investments. Rather than depending solely on children, family, or close friends to return kindness, seek fulfillment in diverse relationships. Engage with your community, volunteer, or explore hobbies that bring joy. 4. Value yourself. If you spend your life giving, you must also allow yourself to receive, even if that means giving to yourself. Taking care of your health, happiness, and emotional well-being is as crucial as helping others. 5. Shift perspective on gratitude. Instead of focusing on those who do not appreciate your efforts, cherish those who do. Often, gratitude comes from unexpected places: a stranger, a student, a neighbor, or even within yourself. The greatest lesson about giving is that it is an act of self-expression, not a transaction. When approached with a sense of freedom, generosity can be one of life's greatest joys. But when it is used as a tool for validation, it often leads to disillusionment. If you find yourself in old age reflecting on a lifetime of giving, remember this: your kindness has shaped lives in ways you may never fully see. Your children may not visit as often as you hoped, your friends may not reciprocate as you expected, but the ripples of your generosity extend beyond what is visible. The real reward of giving is not in what comes back, but in knowing you have lived with an open heart. And that is a gift no one can take away. Part 2. Let go of the need for validation. One of the biggest mistakes people make in old age is seeking validation from others. Whether it is from children, grandchildren, friends, or society, this constant search for appreciation can lead to deep disappointment. Validation is a dangerous trap because it puts your happiness in someone else's hands. When you stop seeking approval, you free yourself from unnecessary emotional burdens. A wise grandmother once told her granddaughter, "The moment you stop explaining yourself, you will be free." She had spent years trying to make others see her worth, trying to justify her decisions, trying to get her children to appreciate her sacrifices. But one day she realized her worth was never dependent on their recognition. When she stopped explaining, stopped expecting, and started simply living for herself, she found a peace she had never known before. The lesson? Your happiness should not be tied to whether others acknowledge your worth. You do not need to prove yourself to anyone. Why we seek validation? From childhood, we are conditioned to seek approval. We are praised for good grades, good behavior, and achievements. Over time, we associate external validation with our self-worth. As we grow older, this need does not disappear. It only takes different forms. It manifests in the desire for acknowledgement from children, compliments from friends, and societal recognition. In old age, this need can become especially painful. Many elderly people feel neglected by their families and unappreciated for their lifetime of sacrifices. They struggle with the feeling of being invisible. However, the truth is, the more you seek validation, the more power you give others over your happiness. Relying on external validation can lead to several emotional challenges. Disappointment and frustration. People are often wrapped up in their own lives. When they fail to give you the appreciation you seek, it can lead to bitterness and resentment. Emotional dependency. Your mood fluctuates based on how others treat you. This can create anxiety and insecurity. Loss of self-identity. The constant need for approval may cause you to suppress your true self to fit expectations. How to let go of the need for validation. Letting go of validation does not mean isolating yourself or becoming indifferent to others. It means developing an inner sense of self-worth that does not depend on external opinions. Here's how. 1. Shift your focus to self-validation. Instead of waiting for others to acknowledge your worth, recognize it within yourself. Start celebrating your own achievements, no matter how small. Keep a gratitude journal where you list things you are proud of each day. Compliment yourself as you would a dear friend. Reflect on your life and appreciate your own growth. 2. Detach from expectations. Expectations often lead to disappointment. Instead of expecting praise or gratitude, shift your mindset to doing things for their inherent joy. Help others without expecting anything in return. Share wisdom and kindness without looking for acknowledgement. Give love freely, not as a transaction for validation. 3. Strengthen your sense of purpose. Having a purpose beyond seeking validation creates a fulfilling life. Find activities and passions that bring you joy. Engage in hobbies that make you happy. Join communities where you can contribute meaningfully. Learn new skills that excite and challenge you. 4. Surround yourself with supportive people. Spend time with those who appreciate you for who you are, not just for what you do for them. Build relationships that are based on mutual respect, not dependency. 5. Embrace solitude. Learning to enjoy your own company is a powerful step in letting go of validation. Solitude is not loneliness. It is an opportunity for deep self-reflection. Take walks in nature and reflect. Meditate or practice mindfulness. Enjoy quiet moments without needing external distractions. The moment you stop seeking validation, you gain freedom. You are no longer tied to the opinions of others, and you begin to live authentically. Imagine an elderly woman sitting in her garden, smiling to herself. She no longer needs her children's appreciation to feel fulfilled. She does not need society's acknowledgement to feel valuable. She simply exists in a state of peace, knowing that her worth is not defined by external voices. This freedom is available to you. By letting go of the need for validation, you open the door to a life of joy, contentment, and inner peace. The world may not always recognize your worth, but you must, because you are enough, just as you are. Part 3, the power of silence, why speaking less is a sign of wisdom. Young people often feel the need to speak, to explain, to argue, to prove their point. But as you grow older, you begin to realize most people do not listen to understand, they listen to respond. Silence is not about weakness, it is about control. When you choose silence, you are not withdrawing from life. You are observing it more deeply. You start to see beyond words, beyond surface-level interactions. You begin to notice patterns in human behavior, and you learn when it is worth speaking and when it is best to remain quiet. In Buddhist teachings, silence is considered a great teacher. Monks often practice noble silence, understanding that unnecessary speech can cloud the mind. Instead of arguing, they observe. Instead of reacting, they reflect. When you practice silence, you develop a deeper understanding of the world. You conserve your energy for things that truly matter. Not every argument is worth engaging in. Not every misunderstanding needs correction. True wisdom lies in knowing when to speak and when to stay silent. Silence has been scientifically proven to reduce stress, enhance concentration, and promote mental clarity. Studies have shown that moments of silence can help lower cortisol levels, which are linked to stress. When you reduce unnecessary noise in your life, both external and internal, you create space for deeper thinking. Many successful individuals, from spiritual leaders to entrepreneurs, recognize the power of silence. They understand that words, when used sparingly, hold more weight. The less you speak, the more people pay attention when you do. People often mistake silence for passivity, but in reality, it is a sign of strength. It takes great self-control to remain quiet in situations where others would react impulsively. This restraint allows you to respond with wisdom rather than emotion. Consider the greatest leaders in history. They were not those who spoke the loudest, but those who chose their words carefully. Their silence made their words more powerful. How to cultivate the power of silence. 1. Practice active listening. Instead of waiting for your turn to speak, truly listen to others. Understand their perspective before formulating a response. 2. Pause before speaking. Before you react to a situation, take a deep breath and consider if your words are necessary. 3. Limit unnecessary conversations. Avoid gossip, complaints, and meaningless chatter. These do not add value to your life. 4. Embrace solitude. Spend time alone in silence. Reflect on your thoughts, emotions, and experiences. 5. Observe more, speak less. Pay attention to how people behave. You will learn more about them through observation than through conversation. Knowing when to remain silent and when to speak is a skill that requires wisdom. Here are some guidelines. Remain silent when your words may escalate conflict unnecessarily. You are tempted to speak out of anger or frustration. You have nothing constructive to add. The other person is not open to listening. Speak when your words can uplift, educate, or inspire. Remaining silent would cause harm or injustice. Someone is seeking guidance, and your words can truly help. The situation requires clarity and understanding. Many spiritual traditions emphasize the importance of silence. In Christianity, silence is a form of prayer and contemplation. In Hinduism, it is seen as a way to connect with the divine. Across cultures, silence is viewed as a path to enlightenment. When you embrace silence, you develop a stronger connection with yourself and the universe. You learn that not everything needs to be spoken, and not every thought needs to be shared. Speaking less does not mean suppressing your thoughts or opinions. It means choosing your words carefully and understanding their impact. It is about listening more and speaking with purpose. The power of silence is a mark of wisdom, self-discipline, and inner strength. When you learn to embrace it, you gain greater control over your life, your emotions, and your relationships. In the end, silence is not just the absence of noise, it is the presence of wisdom. Part 4. Detachment. The key to emotional freedom. One of the most liberating realizations in old age is that you cannot control others. You can only control yourself. Many elderly individuals find themselves frustrated, trying to guide their children, trying to fix relationships, or trying to correct the mistakes of others. But the truth is, people will live their lives as they choose. The more you try to impose your wisdom or expectations on them, the more resistance you may encounter. True peace is found not in trying to change others, but in changing how you respond to them. An elderly woman named Mrs. Tron spent years worrying about her adult son's poor decisions. She gave him advice, tried to intervene, and stressed over his future, but nothing changed. One day she decided, I will love him, but I will not let his choices consume my peace. When she let go of the need to control, she felt a burden lift off her shoulders. She realized that she had spent so much time worrying about him that she had forgotten to live her own life. Detachment does not mean you stop caring. It means you stop suffering over things you cannot change. Detachment is a misunderstood concept. Some think it means being cold or indifferent, but true detachment is about loving without clinging. It is the art of holding space for others while maintaining inner peace. It is about setting emotional boundaries that allow you to care deeply without being emotionally drained by other people's actions. Imagine a tree standing in the wind. It does not resist the breeze, nor does it try to control the movement of the air. It simply bends and adapts. Similarly, detachment allows you to remain steady and strong no matter how the world around you changes. Why detachment brings peace? Freedom from emotional burdens. When you detach, you stop carrying the weight of other people's choices. You realize that their decisions belong to them, not to you. Better relationships. Paradoxically, when you stop trying to control or change others, relationships improve. People feel more respected and valued for who they are. Greater self-focus. By letting go of unnecessary worries, you gain more time and energy to focus on your own growth, happiness, and well-being. Reduce stress and anxiety. The need to control leads to constant stress. When you embrace detachment, you no longer feel the pressure to fix everything and everyone. Practical steps to practicing detachment. 1. Recognize what you can and cannot control. Make a list of things that are within your control, your actions, thoughts, and emotions, and things that are not, other people's choices, past events, external circumstances. Focus only on what you can control. 2. Set emotional boundaries. It's okay to support and advise loved ones, but not at the cost of your peace. Practice saying, I love you and I trust you to make your own choices. 3. Practice mindfulness and meditation. Mindfulness helps you observe your thoughts without getting attached to them. Meditation trains you to let go and be present, reducing anxiety about the future or past. 4. Release the need for approval. Many people hold on to attachment because they want validation, but true peace comes from within, not from the opinions of others. 5. Embrace life as it is. Acceptance is a powerful practice. Life will not always go as you wish, but when you embrace reality, you experience greater contentment. Detachment is a core principle in many spiritual traditions. Buddhism. The Buddha taught that attachment is the root of suffering. By letting go, we find peace. Stoicism. The Stoics emphasized focusing on what is within our control and accepting the rest with grace. Taoism. The Tao Te Ching speaks of flowing with life rather than resisting it. Christianity. Jesus encouraged surrendering to a higher will rather than clinging to worldly concerns. Letting go does not mean giving up on people or relationships. It means freeing yourself from the emotional weight of trying to control what is beyond your power. It means living with an open heart, embracing each moment without being burdened by unnecessary attachments. As you age, detachment becomes not just a skill, but a necessity for a peaceful, fulfilling life. By practicing it, you can cultivate a sense of ease, wisdom, and serenity that allows you to truly enjoy your golden years. Detachment is not about isolation, but about balance. It is about holding on with love, yet with enough space to allow yourself and others to grow. In the end, the greatest gift you can give yourself is the freedom to live in peace, regardless of external circumstances. Old age is often misunderstood as a time of decline, but in truth, it can be the most profound and peaceful stage of life if we choose to embrace it with wisdom. This phase is not meant for chasing external validation, exhausting ourselves in attempts to change others, or dwelling in the past. Instead, it is an opportunity to reclaim our energy, cultivate inner peace, and focus on what genuinely brings us joy and fulfillment. In youth, we often define ourselves by external achievements, relationships, and societal expectations. But as we grow older, life teaches us that true contentment does not come from external sources. It comes from within. The more we let go of unnecessary burdens, the lighter we feel. The more we detach from things beyond our control, the freer we become. One of the most liberating practices in old age is to give without expecting anything in return. Love freely, help others sincerely, but do not tie your happiness to how people respond. If they appreciate it, wonderful. If they do not, that is their journey, not yours. Your kindness should not be conditional upon others' recognition. True giving comes from a place of abundance, not neediness. Society often teaches us to seek approval, to be liked, to be admired, to be accepted. But the older we get, the more we realize that people's opinions are fleeting, inconsistent, and often based on their own experiences rather than our true selves. Your worth is not determined by what others think of you. It is determined by how at peace you are with yourself. When you stop seeking validation, you gain true freedom. Not every battle is worth fighting, and not every opinion needs to be voiced. Learn to choose your words wisely and recognize when silence holds more power than speech. Speak only when necessary, when your words add value, or when they bring clarity. Avoid wasting energy on meaningless arguments or trying to prove yourself to those who are not willing to listen. Peace thrives in silence. Many people struggle with control, trying to shape others' behaviors, emotions, or decisions. But in reality, the only person you can truly control is yourself. Let go of the illusion that you can change people. Instead, focus on your own growth. Accept people as they are, release expectations, and understand that everyone is walking their own path. Your happiness is your responsibility. Care for your body by nourishing it with healthy food and movement. Care for your mind by feeding it with positive thoughts and meaningful conversations. Care for your soul by practicing gratitude, meditation, and spending time in nature. Make choices that bring you peace rather than stress. The greatest gift you can give yourself in old age is peace. Peace is not something you wait for. It is something you create. It comes from choosing what to focus on, what to release, and how to respond to life's challenges. The most profound wisdom of aging is realizing that simplicity, acceptance, and gratitude lead to the most fulfilling life. If this message resonates with you, remember, you have the power to shift your perspective and embrace the peace you deserve. Let go of the unnecessary burdens and embrace the freedom of inner contentment. If you found value in this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and share this wisdom with others. Let's continue to grow, learn, and cultivate peace together. Thank you for watching Buddhist Mindfulness.